Through the first 45 games of the NBA regular season, the Boston Celtics have been nothing short of dominant. Through the first 45 games, they have a record of 35-10. The next best team in the Eastern Conference, the Milwaukee Bucks, they have 31 wins on the season. So right now, the Boston Celtics have a pretty significant lead, and I think they have that, barring any crazy thing happening as far as injuries or anything like that. I think they have that number one seed locked up. And then also you look out in the Western Conference, I believe the Oklahoma City Thunder are number one in the West, and they have 31 wins on the season as well. So the Boston Celtics have at least 4 games on the next best team in the Eastern Conference and the best team in the Western Conference. So they've been winning a big majority of their game. And then also you look at them statistically, I just checked them out, and they've just been insane so far this season, dominating every aspect of the game. We look at them we look at them rebounding as a team. They rank number one in the NBA at 47 rebounds per game. When it comes to offensive and defensive rating, they rank number one in the NBA when it comes to offensive rating, and then defensive rating, they rank number 2 in all of the NBA. And you can make an argument from top to bottom as far as individual and team defense. The Boston Celtics have the best defense in the league when it comes to individual talent. So they're dominating every aspect of the game, rebounding, scoring the basketball, and defending. That points to winning an NBA championship. And when we look at the Boston Celtics, we know they have great players on this team. Jason Tatum, who is a superstar, who I think sometimes gets underrated and also over-criticized. He's 25, 26 years of age, and we've already seen him make multiple deep playoff runs, getting to the Eastern Conference Finals, and sometimes getting all the way to the NBA Finals, where he still hasn't captured his first championship yet. But when you look at a lot of the all-time greats, a lot of those guys weren't getting to conference finals and getting all the way to the NBA Finals this early in their NBA career. We got to remember, Jason Tatum was the best player on an Eastern Conference Finals run for the Boston Celtics not too long ago. He was playing at a very high level. But nonetheless, with Jason Tatum, with him getting these all of this great experience so early in his career, when he hits his physical prime and he hits his skill prime, and then most importantly his mental prime, the playoffs is just going to be so much easier for him, because he done already been through a lot of battles and a lot of wars. So they have Jason Tatum, who's a superstar. They have Jaylen Brown, who's a great counter partner for Jason Tatum, and they also have Kristaps Porzingis. So we know that the Boston Celtics, they have some tremendous star power, and what makes them so great is that they also have 2 Swiss Army knives on their team. And if you don't know what that means, that's just a guy that gives you a little bit of everything. And fortunately for the Boston Celtics, they got 2 guys that don't give them a little bit of everything, but they give them a lot of everything. And those 2 guys are Jrue Holiday and Derrick White, who have just been spectacular for the Boston Celtics so far this season. And we're going to start off looking at both of these guys individually and the kind of seasons that they have so far. And the Boston Celtics are in such a great position that statistically, Jrue Holiday is ranked as the 5th best Boston Celtic right now. So whenever you're in that type of position to have this caliber of a player as your 5th best statistical player, you're in a really, really good position. But so far on this season, Jrue Holiday is averaging around 13 points per game. He's averaging 4 assists per game, and he's averaging 6 rebounds per game, and he's shooting 40% from the 3-point line. So a really solid season for Jrue Holiday, and you guys know what he brings to the table. Over the last handful of years, Jrue Holiday, by his peers, has been known as the most underrated player in the NBA, and also a lot of his peers think he's the toughest matchup defensively, or the toughest guy to be guarded by in the NBA. So that is what Jrue Holiday is known for, and he was just in a position 2 years ago where he was the 2nd or the 3rd best player on that Milwaukee Bucks championship team. So this is a really good player that the Boston Celtics have, and we know how talented the Boston Celtics are. So his usage rating is down, and his role as far as scoring and creating for others is down. But when he does have the ball in his hands, he's making great decisions and great plays. And then most importantly, he is still a dog on the defensive side of the ball. So Jrue Holiday has been spectacular for the role that he's been asked to play this season with the Boston Celtics. And just for a little bit more clarity, Jrue Holiday, his shooting splits on the season, just to be accurate, 46% from the field and then 42% from the three-point line. We look at Derrick White, who's also been spectacular for the Boston Celtics this year. He's averaging 16 points per game to go along with 4 assists, 4 rebounds. He's also shooting 46% from the field, and then he's also shooting 40% from the three-point line, and he's knocking down 89% of his free throws. Now, Derrick White, his game is actually very similar to Jrue Holiday's as far as what their game resembles around and what they specialize at. We look at Derrick White, who was in a position with the San Antonio Spurs where they thought he was going to be a building block of their franchise, but it didn't work out, and he got traded to the Boston Celtics, which was a great pickup for Boston, just because Derrick White, just like Jrue Holiday, he's so versatile. He can score from all 3 levels. He can knock down the three-point shot. He's a great playmaker, and he's very smart. And then I think his timing of making the right basketball play is very impeccable. But where I'm most impressed at by Derrick White is on the defensive side of the ball, because this guy is just all over the place. He's good enough to where if he's in a situation where he has to switch onto a bigger player, and Jrue Holiday is great at this as well. Derrick White, he has very quick hands, and he's also very strong, so he's not an easy guy to post. And then also he's been blocking shots at a very high rate this season. So Derrick White and Jrue Holiday, this is probably the best defensive backcourt in all of the NBA. And just like we talked about, they also bring so much on the offensive side of the ball. So I don't think, at least in my lifetime, I don't think I've ever seen anything like this. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are also both great wing defenders. And then you have 2 guys in the backcourt in Jrue Holiday and Derrick White that has made all NBA defensive teams. That is nasty on the defensive side of the ball. And then they have a mobile big in Kristaps Porzingis, who doesn't get killed in pick and roll situations, and then he can also protect the rim at a very high level. So the Boston Celtics, having these 2 guys in their backcourt, gives them not only the perfect offense, but also the perfect defense. And we look at what these guys bring to the Boston Celtics as far as helping them as a unit. It is really beautiful, because now, even though, like we just stated, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, these guys are great individual defenders, but there are rarely any nights where they have to guard the opposing team's best perimeter scorer, because you have 2 lockdown defenders in your backcourt, and Jrue Holiday and Derrick White, who can guard so many different players in the NBA today. So now when you have your 2 guys who's taking the most shots and your best perimeter scorers, even though they're great defenders, now they don't have to exert as much energy on the defensive side of the ball. Now they're playing great help defense, and then they're rebounding. And it goes the same way on the offensive side of the ball. And this is where it gets really beautiful, because they just fit like a glove, especially when you have 2 guys like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, who are not point guards. Like, they're not natural playmakers, but they do have the ability to make plays. But they're also guys who are best when the basketball in their hands. So with Jrue Holiday and Derrick White, they are great off the ball. We just talked about how they're hitting the 3-point shot at a very high rate this season. Jrue Holiday at 42% and Derrick White at 40%. And not only that, they're great at cutting, moving off the ball, and finishing around the rim. And then the other beauty of it, these guys play the point guard position. Jrue Holiday is averaging 4 assists per game, and so is Derrick White. And then they can make plays for themselves, and they can also make plays for others. So it just makes life a lot easier when you have 2 guys, like we call them Swiss Army knives. Usually teams have one of those players on the team, but the Boston Celtics have been blessed enough to have 2 of these guys who bring a lot to the table. And like we stated, like the Boston Celtics, number 1 in rebounding, number 2 in defensive rating, and number 1 in offensive rating. I think those 2 guys play a huge part in that. And that's what I want to talk about with you guys today. And if you guys enjoyed, please leave a like, comment down below if you agree or disagree, and then subscribe for more weekly content. And we do this all the time, man. And that's curtains.